Yeah, I think in the simplest form, it's a message between two people.
One person trying to share his ideas with another person, or it could be a company trying to convey their ideas to an individual or to another company.
I define it as the transfer of a thought or an idea from one person to the next.
You know, whether that be spoken, written, or, gestures. That's how I look at it. Communications is a two-way process that occurs between a sender and a receiver, and there's the channel that connects the two of them.
The diagram of communications with the sender who encodes a message that hopefully emerges throughout the noise of everything else going on to the receiver, who then decodes the message from their perspective and then gives them feedback.
So I think you have to have those considerations, and I think that your results have to be based on their perception, not your perception of yourself or your message. It's that simple.
For me, communication comes from an idea and an action and a response, and then and rinse and repeat.
I think there's a two-pronged approach to communicating.
You have a synchronous, a traditional synchronous communication where you have two people that are communicating at the same time, and you have a lot of things in our business which are asynchronous, a message that we send and we're waiting for somebody to receive it and respond back to it.
I think keeping that in mind, and then the other thing, realizing that, hey, we're dealing with human beings here. So to me, I always try to keep that foremost in what I'm thinking about, that first of all, that humans should be at the center of what we do, and that the more that we can understand those particular humans that we're trying to talk to, the better we can do our job.
I think doing that accurately is a tough thing. It can be really tough, and that kind of goes back to listening to the client and figuring out what the right way to say something is and how to say it, how long to say it, and where you're saying it is a big thing.
What I felt always since I've been in the reporting business is that the first part of it is listening. I think what makes you a good communicator in the beginning is you pay attention to what other people are saying. You try to digest that and understand where they're coming from. And then that's going to put you in a much better position as a communicator to be able to tell the story.
How do you do it? How do I tell that story so then, when somebody is actually on the media relations side of it, when they're turning the TV on, that the story that remember, it's always the truth though. So how do you get your story by telling the truth and just getting it so it's our story, not somebody else's story?
Well, communications is a broad, sweeping term, kind of like marketing, and I guess I would say that marketing is a big piece of communications. But I guess if you had to define what is communications, it is the art and science of a business telling their story for the sake of getting some sort of action.
I learned, the art of rhetoric, which to me communications really is getting somebody to do or think the way that I want them to. Basically, I'm exerting an influence to achieve what I want. That may be selling a product, it may be raising money for a charity, it may be changing a political opinion, but in essence, every time I approach a project, I need to ask, what do I want the target audience or the person to do?
I look at it from a consumer decision-making standpoint. And really, in my opinion, it's our job really to take a look at each stage of that process and find ways that we can not only influence each of those stages, but also, especially in today's world with technology, find ways of really developing that dialogue with the customer all the way through the process.
I'm sure there's as many answers as that as our people you're interviewing. And my definition would be any and all touch points that we have with the people we're trying to communicate with. And a touch point is a very broad definition of any intersection we have with our consumer, with our target. And that can come in just, a whole ecosystem full of channels.
The key is to develop the right message from a strategic standpoint and then look at the appropriate medium or mediums to communicate through and with, whether it's one way or two way. So I think those factors are primary to effective communication. And it has to be two way.
So it can become quite complex. I think our job is to simplify that for not only our clients, but for the audiences that we're speaking to, and to help two people talk.
I'm a great believer in a line which I did not make up. There's a wonderful designer named Eric Spiekerman who founded Meta Design, and he came up with a great line, and I use it all the time, and I do cite the source, as I do now. And that line is, you could not communicate. People are always communicating. Organizations are always communicating. The idea is, can you understand it, and can you, to the extent you can, control that message? But the fact is, it's something that's happening all the time, whether you try or not.
When you talk to other people, when you tell them what you do, how you communicate to them, you get the word out, where you work, where you live, how you get a hold of you, that's communications. So if anybody's in need of a photographer that used to work in advertising, right here. That's a 9 and a 7, 963.